Hello everyone, welcome back to our daily Clues by Sam. It is Tuesday. Today we have a medium one, so no two easies on the same week. And if you're new here, Clues by Sam is a daily puzzle that ranges in difficulty, so it grows more difficult along the week. If you want to play along, the link is in the description, and if you want to know the rules, there's 20 people. Each of them is either a criminal or an innocent, and they might give you a clue to help you figure out who is a criminal and who is an innocent. I'm gonna be solving and explaining my logic as I go so you can follow along. And today I also want to play one of the community puzzles. So I'm gonna be choosing a community puzzle at random. I don't want to choose from the ones that Sam recommended in the newsletter. I'm just gonna pick based on the time. And if you guys want to recommend a specific one, like one of the community puzzles, and you want me to play that, then I can do that. Just leave the code for the puzzle in the comments and I can look for that in the community ones. And we're gonna pick from the ones from last week. So let's start today's first. With Mary telling us that only one of the two criminals neighboring Logan is to the left of Nancy. Okay, so to the left of Nancy, there's Mary herself, Logan, and Katie. And one of them has to be a criminal. Mary is for sure not a criminal. So either Katie or Logan are gonna be one criminal. And there's two criminals neighboring Logan. So Logan couldn't be. That's not exactly what the clue says. It says that there's two criminals neighboring Logan, and one of them is to the left of Katie. So since Logan is to the left of Nancy, sorry. So since Logan is to the left of Nancy, he couldn't be considered either an innocent or a criminal, because he could be a criminal, but he doesn't neighbor himself. So Katie in this case has to be a criminal, but we just know that there's a second criminal neighboring Logan. So that means that Logan has 6 innocents neighboring him because he has 8 neighbors total. And it could be that Logan is a criminal as well, because the clue, Mary's clue, is not telling us about the people to the left of Nancy. It's telling us about the people to the left of Nancy who neighbor Logan. So I'm gonna leave Mary's clue there because it tells us about the total for Logan, but we're gonna look at Katie's. Both innocents to the right of Vicky are connected. Now we're looking at the right of Vicky here in row 5. So there's 3 people to the right of Vicky, Wanda, Sia, and Zara, and 2 of them have to be innocents. Those 2 innocents have to be connected. Who is the only person among these 3 people that is connected to any of the others? Sia. So Sia has to be an innocent here. And one of the other 3 is going to be the second and last innocent. So now we can tag them as opposites with the same color, because we know for sure that there is going to be only one more innocent here to the left of Vicky. That means that we don't need Katie's clue anymore, so we click on it. And Sia says that both criminals in column A are Pam's neighbors. So Pam has 3 people neighboring her in column A, Katie, Oscar, and Vicky. Among those 3, there's gonna be 2 criminals, because Sia says there's 2. And it also, she also says that there's 2 criminals in column A total. So of the people that don't neighbor Pam, Aaron and Emma, there couldn't be a criminal among them, because they wouldn't be a part of the total to the neighbor Pam. Now, I'm gonna leave Sia's clue there to remind me of that. And Aaron now says that column B has more criminals than any other column. Okay. So it has to have at least 3, because we know that column A has 2 already. So column B has to have at least 3. Emma says that the only criminal in row 4 is Mary's neighbor. So we know that Oscar is definitely not a criminal. And we could have tagged Oscar and Vicky as opposites, since we knew that there was only gonna be one more criminal here, and it was gonna be one of these 2. But Oscar is not that criminal, which makes Vicky the criminal, and we know that there's gonna be one single criminal in row 4 here. Now I don't need Oscar. Okay, I had to take a bit of a pause there, but I'm back. We don't need Oscar's text because it's not a clue. Vicky says that Floyd is one of 2 incents below Bobby. Okay, so Floyd is an incent, and we know a lot more information from this clue, Vicky's clue. Why? There's 4 people below Bobby. And now we know that 2 of them are incents, which means 2 criminals. But we knew from before, from columns A total, column A's total, that we needed to have at least 3 criminals in column B, right? Because Aaron's telling us that column B has more criminals than any other column. So the third one is gonna have to be Bobby, because he's the only person left besides all of the people below him who could be criminal. So Bobby is a criminal, we know that now, and we also know that the total for column B is 3 at the end of it, and that means that no other columns could have 3, at most 2 criminals in each column left, C and D here. Now, Floyd says there are as many criminals as innocents above Zara. So same situation as Bobby, just worded in a different way. Sarah has 4 people above her, and that has to be the same number of criminals and innocents. So 2 and 2 here. And since we know that there's gonna be 2 criminals above Zara now, and we know we couldn't have a third one in column D, Zara is an innocent for sure, which makes Wanda a criminal. And now we make Logan and Pam opposites because we know there's 1 more criminal here in column B, which makes the other person an innocent. Very nice. I don't need Cia's clue anymore. I don't need Vicky's clue anymore because I have tagged Logan and Pam. I do need Emma's, and Floyd says there are as many criminal innocents as innocents above Zara, so I'm gonna leave that there. It's very hard to read this, apparently. Do I need Mary's clue? Yes, I do, because it tells me that Logan has only 1 more criminal neighbor, so I'm gonna keep that there. And Bobby says that 2 innocents in column D are neighboring Mary. So where's Mary? Mary has 3 people in column D neighboring her. 2 of those 3 are innocents. And that leaves us 1 single person, David, to be the second and last criminal in column D, because we know that there has to be 2 criminals, right? So David is a criminal. And I'm gonna leave Bobby's clue there because it might remind me of that later. David says that only 1 cop has an innocent directly to the right of them. So where are all the cops? Gary and Vicky both have people to their right, but one of them already has a criminal. So the other one has to be the one who has an innocent. So Isaac's now an innocent. And we know that Nancy and Tom are opposites. So we're gonna tag them as that and dismiss David's clue. Isaac now tells us that there is an equal number of criminals in rows 1 and 5. I know the total for row 5. There's 2 criminals in row 5, so there has to be 2 in row 1, and there already is. There's Bobby and David, so Chad, the only person left in row 1, is going to be an innocent. We don't need Isaac's clue anymore, but Chad says there's an odd number of criminal singers. Where are all the singers? 2. And one of them is already a criminal, so we couldn't have a second one. That would make an even number, so Pam has to be an innocent, which makes Logan a criminal. And we knew that Logan has only 2 criminal neighbors, so either Gary or Rose are gonna be the last criminal. We know that Rose and Tom are opposites because there's only 1 criminal in row 4, right? Yeah, Emma says that. Pam says there's only 1 innocent to the right of Logan. So Mary is that single innocent, which makes Nancy a criminal. Nancy is opposites with Tom, so Tom is now an innocent, and Tom is opposites with Rose, so Rose is a criminal, and Gary is an innocent. Done with the medium one. Took me a while there because I had to stop to cough. So sorry about that. But very nice. Very good exercise for today. Let's jump to the community puzzles. Okay, so here I have a list of community puzzles, and these are the ones created for this week. The last one apparently has a lot of likes on it, and so far there's this mechanic where you can like the puzzle if you solved it. And it's very important that you do if you did like it. But I would really rather we had an option to rate the difficulty, because it would make it easier to find puzzles of a certain difficulty. So for now, what I think is the better way to rate the difficulty is to look at how long people take to solve the puzzle. So I'm gonna select one of the longer ones. So we have that one at 11 minutes. I guess that's the longest one from last week. So I'm gonna try that one. But there's only one person that liked it. We also don't know how many people have solved it. I guess more than one, because we have the stats, right? So I don't know how, I'm not a data person per se, but I kind of have sort of an idea that we have to have some people solving it. And I think this is like the highest percentage average of the people, the average of the highest percentage of people solving it. I don't know. I'm gonna select this one and we are gonna rate if this is actually hard or not. So let's try this out. He might be accidentally one of the ones that Sam shared in the newsletter. I'm not really sure because I didn't cross-reference the code. But if it is, funny thing. If it's not, then we have another one being exemplified here. Okay. So we start this one with Zoe, telling us that only one instance loop has an instance directly to the left of them. There's 2 sleuths. Oh, there's 3 sleuths, because Zoe is also one of them. And Zoe and Sia have people to their left, but Emily, the 3rd sleuth, doesn't have anybody to her left. So what does that mean? That Wally and Sia are opposites. Only one innocent sleuth has an instant directly to the left of them. So that still means that Wally and Sia are opposites, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. That's pretty nice, because if Sia is a criminal, if Wally is an innocent, then we have no sleuths with innocents to their left who are also sleuths. Even though Sia has an innocent to her left, who are also innocents. Even though Sia is a sleuth who has an innocent to her left, she isn't an innocent. Oh my god, this is gonna be terrible. But that's why I love the community puzzles, because it's different ways of thinking that we're not used to, and different types of wording in the clues. So Sia has to be an innocent, and Wally has to be a criminal. Because if it were the other way around, we would have no sleuths who are innocents with innocents to their left. And if both of them are criminals, of course, same situation. If both of them were innocents, then we would have 2 sleuths with innocents to their lefts who are also sleuths, who are also innocents. Oh my god. Trust me, it makes sense if you put it to paper. Sia now says that both criminals in row 4 are connected. Okay, we know there's 2 criminals and 2 innocents in row 4. And Wally says there's an odd number of criminals neighboring Sia. The second part of the video is always weird, you know? It's always me just stumbling around my words. But we know that Sia has to have both criminals who are in row 4 neighboring her, because she has to make an odd number of criminals, and she already does have 1 so far, Wally. Since 3 people in row 4 neighboring her, then having 2 criminals would make Sia have 2. Having 2 innocents in row 4 neighboring Sia would make her have 2 criminals neighboring her, which would be an even number. So, yeah, that's crazy. What we get here is not who the criminals are, but Nicole being an innocent. Oh, terrible. Nicole says that each row has at least 2 criminals. So we need row 5 to have a second one, and there's only Tina left. So she is a criminal, and she says there's an odd number of criminal coders. So there's three coders. It could be one criminal one or three of them. If it were one, let's say that Bonnie is a single criminal here. That would make Alice and Chuck both innocents. And we know that each row has to have at least two criminals. So David would have to be a criminal here. Now we know from Sia that both criminals in row 4 are connected, so Paul is a criminal, and Olga and Raul are opposites. Paul says that Emily has more criminal neighbors than him. Emily here. Okay. Apparently this is hard. The non-number of criminals neighboring Sia. Okay, I don't need that anymore. Non-number of criminal coders. Don't need Sia school anymore either. I thought I was gonna know something about the coders. Like, could both Bonnie and Alice be innocents and we have only Chuck be a criminal coder? We know that Paul has to have at least a third criminal neighbor. And why do I say a third one? Paul neighbors Wally, who is his first criminal neighbor, but he has a second one, who's either Olga or Raul. And he has to have at least a third one in row 3 here, because there has to be at least two criminals in each row. So worst case scenario would be one criminal neighbor's Paul and one criminal neighbor's Emily. So this would be the worst case scenario. If that were the case, Emily and Alice and Bonnie are innocents. Now Emily doesn't have enough room to have more criminals than Paul. So that's one thing. Does she still not have room if the criminal that neighbors her, or the criminal in row 1 neighbors her? Yeah, she wouldn't. Because that's 3 and 3 here. So Emily has 3 and Paul has 3. And since Paul has to have at least one criminal neighbor, I am betting that that criminal neighbor, but if all holders are criminals, now Emily has more than Paul, even though Paul has one criminal neighbor not shared with Emily. So how do I disambiguate this? That's what I'm asking. I guess what we know is that Jane could never be an innocent, right? Because if Jane is an innocent, that gives Paul 2 criminals. Now Paul has 4. And the most criminals that Emily could have with Jane being innocent is 4. So they have the same number. Emily can't have more if Jane is an innocent. So that's one thing. Jane says that both criminal cooks are connected. So where are all the cooks? This is a very interesting clue, because since the cooks are in a sort of an L shape formation here, they can be connected either way. They can be connected via row or via column here, horizontally or vertically. All the big words. I'm spending my English today. So Ike has to be one of the criminal cooks, and we know that the second one is either David or Gabe, so we tag them as opposites, and we don't need Jane's clue anymore. Ike says there's an odd number of criminals neighboring Gabe. Wow. So, Gabe's in the mix now. Gabe's in the mix. And Gabe is gonna have a non-number of criminals. If crazy. Because Gabe shares one criminal at least with Paul, so that makes two. I'm gonna try scenarios where only Alice is a criminal here, neighboring Emily. But that would still force both Frank and Keith to be criminals. Because Paul is for sure gonna have 3 criminal neighbors. So Emily has to have 4, at least. Which makes Alice for sure criminal, does it? Can I ever make Alice an innocent? If I make Bonnie a criminal. And then both Frank and Keith. But how does that go with Gabe? Because we have to put Gabe in the mix. If this is a scenario, Emily has 4 criminals, Paul has 3, so that's okay. Gabe has 4 criminals as well, which would make David a criminal so that Gabe has a not number. If all Colders were criminals, it doesn't change Emily and Logan. Like, that's good. Emily and Paul, sorry. That's good for both of them. Does it change Gabe? It does. Because now Gabe has 5 criminal neighbors. So David would have to be an innocent. Can I ever make either Logan or Maria criminals? I guess I could now because Emily has 5 criminal neighbors, so Paul is allowed to have one more. So what do I use here to disambiguate? I'm using that word a lot. I don't think it means what I think it means. Maybe I try... Oh, and you gotta keep in mind the thing about having 2 criminals in each row at least. So I'm loving this puzzle. I'm loving this puzzle. So if I make these 2... No. Other thing. If I make these 2 like that, David couldn't be a criminal. But he would have to be a criminal to give row 1 a second criminal. But that would make Gabe end up with an even number of criminals neighboring him. So are we sure that Emily has 5? Criminal neighbors. Are we sure? Can I ever make Keith an innocent? Because if I do that, let's say I do this. All 3 Colders are criminals. Emily has 4 criminals and Paul has 3. Gabe has 5 and it's okay for David to be an innocent. Because row 1 has 2 criminals already. So it does work with Keith being an innocent. And there is a way to make Chuck a criminal, just as there is a way for us to make him an innocent. So I'm not really sure. I'm really lost. There's an odd number of criminals neighboring Gabe. Because he has to be dead. And we know for sure that we couldn't have two criminals neighboring Paul. Like, we just couldn't. If that's the case, even if one of those two neighbors Emily, now Paul has 1, 2, 3, 4. So everybody, the neighbors. Emily has to be a criminal, which is okay. Everybody in row 1 would end up being a criminal. So 5, 6, 7. Can I ever make Maria a criminal? I can if I just switch these two. So I'm going way over 11 minutes. Way over. Way over that. Okay, I've checked Keith. I've checked Alice and Bonnie. I have checked Chuck. I haven't checked Frank. Could Frank ever be an innocent? If Frank is an innocent, does anything break? I don't think it does. Emily would have to be a criminal then. But that's it. There's an odd number of criminal coders. I'm okay with that. Both criminal cooks are connected. That's okay. I have tagged those people. So I'm really confused as to what I'm missing. Like, let me start by David, because if I start by David and he is ever an innocent, I know that everybody else in row 1 has to be a criminal because it has to be an odd number of them. And at least 2, which gives us 3. And with that, we also get Gabe being a criminal. Okay? That's fine. Gabe now has... I've gone lower. Gabe now has 3 criminals neighboring him. He's gonna have a 4th one here shared with Paul. So he needs a 5th one as well. And those 2 couldn't be both neighboring Paul, because if both of them were neighboring Paul, then Frank would also have to be a criminal, for Emily having more criminals than Paul. And Gabe would end up with even number of criminals. So only one person here. But it does work. Every row has 2 criminals. So it's not David. I'm gonna have to cough again. I'm back. I survived. How do I solve this? What am I missing? There's an odd number of criminals neighboring Gabe. I think I should be seeing this. I'm not. I'm not. Like, do I know that Bonnie and Chuck can't both be innocents, for example? Because if both of them are, then both Alice and David have to be criminals. And if that's the case, Gabe is an innocent, which is fine. But since Emily now has an innocent, then first of all, everybody else in neighbors her has to be a criminal, and everybody else in neighbors Paul has to be an innocent. Gabe ends up with four criminals, which is even. So we can't have both Bonnie and Chuck be innocents. Which means at least one of them has to be a criminal, but it could be Bonnie. Like, this solves everything. I guess what we know is that Chuck couldn't be a criminal. And was I supposed to see this like ages ago and I just didn't? Shame. Shame. Like, this is obviously not possible. Even though it is an odd number of coders, Emily doesn't have enough. So Bonnie has to be a criminal in any case. No, Chuck, yeah, Chuck, it doesn't matter. Chuck could be an innocent if Bonnie is a criminal. Don't! Only one row has no innocence. I'm gonna crash out. Only one row has no innocence. It has to be row 1, right? We have tried that several times as I was going insane. Because we know it is for sure not row 3. Which means it has to be either row 1 or row 2. Could it be row 2? If row 2 is the one with no innocence, then for sure row 1 is the one with one innocent, which is David, because he's opposite with Gabe. Gabe would need a number of criminals neighboring him, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And the fifth one shared with Paul. Could we ever make the opposite work? Can this work? I mean, why couldn't it? Because Gabe would then need 2 criminals here, but that works as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that works. That works. So what doesn't work? It's not what doesn't work. It's that Chuck, Alice, Emily, and Frank are all criminals. I don't know if I can prove that. Don't know if I can prove that. I think I am going ahead of myself here. But now maybe I can prove that Maria. Or maybe is it that Emily is always a criminal? Nah, because I have to actually prove that one of these roles has no innocence. So it is gonna end up like this. It is gonna end up being between David and Gabe. I just have to find a way to prove that the other 4 are always criminals. Because, I mean, this could be. No, this couldn't be. Because we need 2 criminals in row 1. So this couldn't be. So maybe I'm right. Like, can I ever prove Frank now to be an innocent? Let's go for the people we are trying to actually prove. Can I prove Frank to be an innocent? If he is, then Alice and Keith both have to be criminals. Alice being a criminal makes Chuck a criminal. Now, Logan and Maria are both innocents because Paul and Emily. And Gabe has 1, 2, 3, 4 criminals, which makes David a criminal, and now row 1 has only criminals, so Frank could be an innocent. Frank could be an innocent. It's just what it is. Can I make Alice an innocent? No, I can't. Because if I do make Alice an innocent, Gabe automatically becomes an innocent. And that makes it so no one of the two rows could have only criminals. So Alice has to be a criminal, which makes Chuck a criminal. I am feeling weird. Alice says that Ike has at least 3 criminal neighbors. So we know about Chuck and the second one here, who's either David or Gabe. So that makes 2, we need the third one, and that third one is gonna neighbor Paul. Why? Even though Alice says at least, why couldn't both Logan and Maria be criminals? We've gone through that. Because if both of them are criminals, then there's no way that Emily could have more criminals than Paul. Because now they have at most the same number. So only one of these guys here is a criminal. And that doesn't make Keith a criminal necessarily. If Frank is a criminal, it could be that Keith is an innocent. Moni says only one row has no innocents. Oh yeah, we solved that, kind of. Chuck says there are 7 innocents total. Innocents. We know about 3 of them, a 4th one here in row 4, and a 5th one in row 3. The 6th one here who's either Gabe or David. So we know about 6 of them. Which makes the 7th one, if it is Keith, who is a criminal, Emily is an innocent. Right? But now Gabe has 4, 5, 6. So this works. This works. If, on the other hand, we couldn't have Frank be an innocent and Keith be a criminal, because that would break Paul and Emily. Paul would end up with 4, and Emily would end up with 4. So Frank has to be a criminal. It doesn't matter what Keith is. Frank says Keith and him have an odd number of criminal neighbors in common. This puzzle is evil. Evil! I want to know who made it. Like, this is one of my biggest desires. I want to talk to the person who makes this thing. I want to know how they do it. Okay, coming back. Keith and Frank have an odd number of criminal neighbors in common. So they have 4 neighbors in common, which means that an odd number has to be 3. Or just 1. How am I gonna solve that? What about Olga and Raul? Like, they've been left for dead down there. Poor people. Okay, we still don't know about Keith. So we gotta diverge our attention here. Let's go back to try to make column or row 2 the single row with no innocence. If that happens, Logan would have to be an innocent so that Frank and Keith have an odd number. But it doesn't really affect. It doesn't really affect. We know it couldn't be 3. It couldn't be all Gabe, Logan, and Emily. It couldn't be all of these people. Why do we know that it couldn't be all of them? Because if it is, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If it is all 3, then Paul and Emily have the same number of criminal neighbors. Is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We know that Keith couldn't be a criminal. Because Emily and Paul would have the same number of criminals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Emily would have 5. And Keith has to be an innocent. Huh? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I can't count. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't count. That's it. I'm ending my Close by Sam career here. Thank you for watching me so far. I don't remember my takeaway from making all of these guys. Incense, so I'm gonna have to do it again. And now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I know that I can't have only one of them being innocent. Because if only one of them is an innocent and the other 2 are criminals, we don't have enough innocence. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But now I don't trust myself counting. 1, 2, 3. We do have 7. I am so lost. Could Emily be the single innocent? Like, let's try that. No, she couldn't. Because if she is a single innocent, then we have no rows with no innocents. But they could all 3 be innocents and that would work. Could Gabe be the single innocent? No. Because now Gabe could be the single innocent. I don't know, man. Is it about Gabe not having enough criminals? Because Gabe, oh my god. Is it about that? Because Gabe now has 4 criminals and is gonna have a 5th one here, who's either Logan or Maria. So Gabe has 5. To keep an odd number and either Keith or David. And for either Keith or David to be criminals, both of them would have to be. And if that's the case, Emily is an innocent. cough stop again. Can both David and Keith be innocent? Because that's the only way Gabe keeps his odd number. If that happens, then both Gabe and Emily have to be criminals, which works for the role having no innocence. But does it work for everything else? Is Logan ever a criminal? In this case, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Innocence only. Oh, 7 with either Olga or Raul, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. So they can be both innocents. I'm going insane. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, but it doesn't work because now Emily and Paul have the same number. What? What's happening? Isn't Keith and David the key? 11 minutes? You gotta be crazy. I don't think anybody can do this. I want to talk to the people who solved this in 11 minutes. Or less. Like, that's crazy. Here I am. Thinking that I can teach things. What am I trying to disprove here? What am I trying to do? I don't need Nicole school anymore. Like, that doesn't help me with anything. Emily has more criminal neighbors than Paul. We are doing that. We know that both Keith and Logan couldn't be criminals. That just doesn't. Or does it? It does. Because 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Emily has 5. So it does. It does work. Don't need Tina school anymore either. Now I'm angry. I'm going through the 5 stages of grief here with this puzzle. This is gonna end up with like an hour long episode. And you guys want me to play community puzzles. Look at this. Do you enjoy to watch me suffer? Okay. This is the crash out. Let me go back again and try to make David a criminal and see how this works. Because if I do, now Gabe has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 criminals neighboring him, which forces Keith to be a criminal. I just learned that. And it doesn't matter what Emily is. Or any of the others. So it is not David that we have to look at, okay? Frank is saying criminals. Keith and Frank have an odd number of criminals. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's opposite, so it doesn't really matter. Because an odd number, when we have 4 and you divide that in odd numbers, the remainder is going to be an odd number. So it doesn't really matter. It's okay. I know how math works. Trust. Can I ever make I'm gonna stop trying things. I'm gonna see where to look for sure. And it's gonna be Logan. Because if Logan is ever an innocent, something happens. something very important. No, it doesn't. If Maria is ever an innocent, nothing happens. Okay, I'm for sure. I'm for sure that Keith is not the next one. Like, that's just. He's not. Emily being innocent, we have tried that. But now I have new information from the last time that I tried this, not paying attention to everything. Emily can't be the sole innocent because no two rows would have no incense. Not a single row would have no incense. So if Emily is ever an innocent, that makes Gabe and Logan both innocents as well. So when we go from that, what breaks? Can we ever make row 2 the row with all criminals? Can I ever do that? If I do that, Frank and Keith share not number of criminals. Ike has 3 criminal neighbors. Paul has 3 criminal neighbors. Gabe has 4, 5. So Keith will be an innocent. Row 3 has 2 criminals, so that's fine. There's a row with all criminals. I think I'm maybe missing something that I shouldn't. Again, Logan is an innocent, but I can make him a criminal, for example, if I make Gabe an innocent, so it's not a deal breaker for me. Am I seeing Emily always be a criminal? I'm gonna cut this one short. Guys. I don't think I can do this. I forgot about counting the innocents. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This can't. This can't be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Keith. Maybe I'm gonna take a step back. And I'm gonna come back later and I'm gonna understand this. 11 minutes. Emily being innocent makes all of these guys innocent. But this doesn't work for some reason. It doesn't work. Why? It works with Gabe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It works with Frank and Keith. They have a non-number of criminals. It works with the rows that have no innocents. It works with the rows that have at least 2 criminals. Emily has more criminals than Paul because Paul has 4. How many innocents are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're gonna have a 7th one here. Does it not work if I make one of these guys a single instance? Like, for example, Gabe. If I make Gabe a single instance, Gabe ends up with 1, 2. Well, Maria has to be instance. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Keith being a criminal. And now we don't have enough instances. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that doesn't work. 2, 5, 6, 7. Can I make Logan the single innocent? No, because it doesn't change the number of instances on the board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, it does. It does. No, it doesn't. Maria is not an innocent now. So Emily has to be an innocent. And we have to have 3 instances neighboring. I want to crash out. I don't know where to. I don't know where to look. I'm. I don't know. Am I gonna post this? Am I gonna post this? Is anybody gonna watch this? You must be traumatized if you've come this far. And you must be very, very willing. So what I'm checking is that this row 2, when it is a row that doesn't have any innocence, it makes Gabe have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 criminals naming him. So Keith has to be an innocent. That gives the board 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 instances total, which is something that is possible and desirable. I think the thing is that Emily. No, it couldn't be. It couldn't be. It couldn't be. Ike has at least 3 criminal neighbors. I don't need that clue anymore. So, one last clue to torment me. I know. I know that we can't have both Keith and Logan be criminals. Do I? I'm just throwing things to the wind. If I do that, if both Keith and Logan are criminals, what happens is that row 2 has to have an innocent. So that makes David a criminal and Gabe an innocent and Emily a criminal. If that happens, how many instances do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So not enough. But I just checked and we can have both Keith and Logan be innocents. I am feeling so defeated in ways I didn't ever think I could feel. If both of them are innocents, both Emily and Gabe have to be innocents so that Frank and Keith share an odd number of criminals. If why did making Keith and Logan both criminals? Oh yeah. Yeah. I know. I know. If both of them are innocents, then both Emily and Gabe have to be innocents. Does that break something? It breaks Gabe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Keith and Logan have to be opposites, otherwise they break people. Just like I'm broken right now after all this time doing this. I'm gonna have to take a vacation to recover. Now that we know that. Now that we know that Keith and Logan are opposites, do we attempt something that I feel like I haven't attempted yet? Like Logan being innocent. Do I? And by doing that, does anything break? I don't feel like it does. So do I attempt making Logan a criminal? And if I do that, does anything break? 1, 2, 3. Oh. 1, 2, 3. That's Paul's total, which works with Emily. Gabe has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 criminals. So David would have to be an innocent. Gabe would have to be a criminal, and Emily would have to be a criminal. And now, how many instances do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I give up. I'm gonna give up. I'm giving up. I'm not solving this. I'm not posting this today. Bye. It was nice meeting you. I'm back. And I brought tea. And I feel like I just need to solve this and I need to post it. I've posted like hour and a half videos before. I'm gonna link that there. There. If you are interested for some crazy reason. But I've suffered this before. In the hands of Sam themselves. So it's not in the hands of an anonymous community puzzle maker who's very good that I'm gonna die. We're gonna examine the clues. We're gonna cross-reference everybody. We're gonna try every technique known to man, me and man, and we are gonna get this solved. So, let's do this. We know there's 7 instances in total. First thing, I can't believe I didn't notice this before. It like popped into my mind like an intrusive thought. How many instances do we have on the board so far, guys? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Where's the seventh and last one? It has to either be Emily or Keith. Like, one of them is gonna be the last one because every other one is already accounted for in pairs of people. How can I not see this before? Okay, now we know that Emily and Keith are opposites, right? What does that do for me? And I also have the thing about Logan and Keith also being opposites. But if they are opposites, and how did I not see that before? What do we do with that new information? Emily, which I have tried, is the last person I tried, right? Since Emily is the last person I tried, because I don't know where to go from this, I'm gonna try to make her a criminal and see if that's the thing. Nah, because I tried making her an innocent and it didn't work. So proving that she could be a criminal is not exactly what I'm looking for. Not exactly what I'm looking for. Only one row has no innocence. Can I prove that Emily and Gabe are opposites? Like, if I prove that Emily and Gabe are opposites, if both of them are the same, then Logan has to be innocent. And because of Emily, Keith has to be criminal. And Maria has to be criminal. So that works. It works for all of us. That's great. Can they be both criminals? And if they are, then Logan and Keith both have to be innocents, which makes Maria criminal. And that makes row 2 the one with no innocence. So that works as well. So what I have proved is that Emily and Gabe are same. And Logan is opposite. So Gabe and Logan are also opposite. If Gabe and Logan are also opposite, because they couldn't ever be the same, because one of them being criminal and the other one being criminal makes Emily criminal as well. And Keith innocent. If they are same, what happens to us? If they are same, Frank and Keith don't share in a number of criminals. Even though we have enough innocents on the board. So they can't be same criminals. Can they be same innocents? If they are, we have too many. Do we have too many? Three. No, we don't. Logan has to be innocent? Is it Logan having to be innocent? Can Logan be a criminal? Logan can't be a criminal. Because we know that Emily and Gabe are the same. Are Emily and Gabe the same? Because they work like this. This works. Doesn't it? We have seven innocents. Frank and Keith share an odd number of criminals. I think Gabe couldn't be criminal. Is Gabe not able to be a criminal? Gabe's not able to be a criminal because now Logan and Keith are not opposites. But that works. Frank and Keith share an odd number. Gabe has an odd number of criminals. Paul has less criminal neighbors. 1, 2, 3. Than Emily. So how did I decide that Keith and Logan are opposites? One, two, three, four, five. How did I decide that Logan and Keith are opposites? And when did I decide that and why? Silent video. Sorry. Sorry. I really don't see it. And like feel free to comment below what I'm not seeing, because I have learned with you guys in the past. If you have for some reason gotten all the way here, let me know what am I doing wrong that I normally don't do, or where my logic fails to approach, because sometimes I have a neural pathway that is not open at all. It could be. But like this just works for every clue that we have, where Ike has 3 criminal neighbors. Row 2 has no innocents. There are 7 innocents total. There's an odd number of criminals neighboring Gabe. 5. Frank and Keith share an odd number of criminals. Emily has 4 criminals where Paul has 3. So it does work. Keith and Logan don't have to be opposites. Is it Emily not being an innocent now? Can I prove that she couldn't be an innocent now? If she's an innocent, then row 1 has to be the row that has no innocents, which forces Logan to be an innocent as well. Emily has more criminal neighbors than Paul. Oh, this doesn't work. Does it? 1, 2, 3, 4. It does. It does. Does Gabe not have an Odd number, one, two. Gabe has 7 criminals. I I don't get it. Can I make Keith an innocent? If I do, Emily has to be a criminal. Which is fine. Keith can be an innocent because that removes Paul's and Emily's issue of having one more than the other. Because Logan and Maria are opposites. I guess what I'm trying to know. Oh, sorry about that. What I'm trying to know. What I'm trying to go back to is Gabe and Logan both being criminals and Emily. This doesn't work. Does it? It doesn't. It doesn't work Gabe and Logan both being criminals, so I'm gonna tag these. But it does work with Gabe and Logan both being innocents. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. But they can't both be criminals. They can both be innocents, and they can't be opposites because I have just tried that. Is it Maria? Yeah, I have tried Maria with both because if Logan can be both, Maria can be both. There are 7 innocents total. There's another number of criminals neighboring Gabe. I There's another number of criminals neighboring Gabe. And we know Gabe's gonna have 5 here. So we know that Keith and David are same. Like, I'm listing all of the facts that I know and they're not helping. So I'm just confusion. Can I maybe write that down? Is this gonna be the first puzzle where I'm gonna have to write stuff down? Is it? Is it gonna be? It's either both Emily and Gabe are criminals. But I have just proved that they can both be innocent. Right? This works. It works for Gabe. It works for row 1 and row 2. Each row has at least 2 criminals. So there's nothing to worry about there in that regard. Now Paul and Emily are solved because Emily has 5 and Paul has 1, 2, 3, 4. Gabe and Logan are same. Even David are same. Can Keith and David both be innocent like I have tried before? They can. Can Maria ever be innocent? If Maria is innocent, what happens then? If Logan is criminal, what happens then? Either Emily or Gabe have to be innocent, so David would have to be a criminal, which would force Gabe to be the innocent in this case, and Emily to be a criminal and Gabe to be an innocent. And that does work. It does work. It works with Gabe and Logan being opposites. But now Keith and David are not the same. But if Keith and David are not the same, how come Gabe has an even number? Gabe has an even number. Maria can't be an innocent. I'm so sorry, guys. It's cinnamon tea, by the way. There's an odd number of criminals neighboring Jane. Jane has 2 criminals, Frank and either Emily or Keith. So Olga has to be the third one. Column C has more innocents than any other columns. Well. There is 2 innocents in column D, so column C has to have a third one. So are Logan and Keith opposite? Yeah, because Gabe has to have an odd number. Wow. It's been a while since I've posted such a long video. If you did make it to the end again, I really appreciate everybody that watches me. And I think my reactions are like, I'm more of a saying what I'm feeling person than a really move. I don't move much. So I hope I can be entertaining. I guess if you did reach the end, it was entertaining enough. So thank you. I hope you tried playing the puzzle before I did. And if you did play the puzzle, I'm gonna leave the link in the description. You can access it if I give you the link directly. If you did, tell me your time and what made it easier for you. And again, thank you. I'll see you tomorrow.